Be comfortable with silence. And look, when I was a kid, I feared God. I feared God because I was told by my parents and other people that every time that I would do something good or bad, He would always be watching no matter what. And when I was a kid, I had this imaginary counter in my brain. It would tick up or tick down based on what I did. And as a kid, I would lie, and as a kid, I would curse. I wasn't perfect, and I would never say that I ever was. And there were times where I had issues with my faith. I was struggling to come to terms with my faith, and I would go to people asking them questions, and they would never have the answer that I really wanted, what I wanted to hear. And sometimes they did, but most times they would always say that there was something wrong with me, that I'm not truly devoted, and that I must be possessed by the devil because I don't believe in God or because I have wavering thoughts about Him. But I was only told what I was known about God because of my friends, family, and other people. I only heard through word of mouth. I've never read the Bible, nor have I ever seen my parents ever take out the Bible. And I'd always pray at night because I feared the consequences of my actions would eventually catch up to me and I would be sent to hell. And I never wanted that. And one night, I decided not to pray and I had a nightmare. And the thing was, I told my father, and he told me, look, that's what happens when you don't pray. Because you aren't praying, you're leaving yourself exposed to the demons in the world to allow to get into your brain. And that's why you have nightmares. And I said, okay. I tried it again. I had a nightmare. And then again, a nightmare. And then again, no nightmare. And then again, no nightmare. And I realized that I was having nightmares because I was stressed out. I was stressed out about God. As weird as and funny as it sounds, if anything. That I feared this entity so much, and it brought me so much toil to me mentally that I would have nightmares about myself not being good enough or being accepted into this kingdom in heaven that I presumed was real. And now, nearly a decade later, I'm 18, and now I would say that I do still believe in God, that there is a higher power, but I struggle to understand and come to terms that God is this foregone and set lifestyle and mindset. And now, nearly a decade later, I still have wavering thoughts about God and what I think about the religion. And I have a buddy who's very much into this religion, and he wants to try to convert me into what he believes, which is Catholicism or Christianity. I can't quite remember. I apologize for that. And I debate him about topics such as, God giving us free will, is God this perfect being, does He really want us to succeed? He gives us the option to do things. There are instances where drunk drivers will get drunk into their car, and then somebody will die, and this person who died is an innocent person. They might have been going on with their day, and yet this drunk driver has somehow survived because he was drunk and his body allowed himself to become like that, and God gave him the option to become intoxicated. Is God really this perfect and honest being? And those are genuine questions I have. I don't want to seem like someone who is trying to be arrogant or trying to push my belief on someone else, because that was something I didn't like when I was younger, and I don't want to be that kind of person as well. And we would talk, and sometimes we would talk over each other, and I realized that during the times that we did that, nothing meaningful would be said or even listened to. We would just try to get our opinion as fast as we could out of our mouths, and if anything, we would just make a noise. And I realized that being able to take a moment, come to terms with this other person is saying, say, hey, I see a conflict in this. This is what I think. I see that you're coming from this angle, I'm coming from this one. And I think that's something that many people, especially now where we have the internet, we're able to contact people hundreds of miles away, and yet we feel more disconnected than ever. It's truly fascinating. And the thing was, even now, I want to learn. I want to read the Bible. I want to understand, why do people believe this religion? What makes it so good? And, if anything, why are we here? And I don't want to get this video to be too existential, but those are just some of the topics I try to talk with my buddy, and some topics I try to research by myself on the internet. And I've also realized that I'm not sure if it's because of the internet that we're able to share so much media, people's daily lives, or court hearings happening in different countries or different states in the United States. But I've seen a couple clips online that There will be people in the court hearing, there will be people in a committee talking about something for their city, and people will talk over each other. And people will talk over each other. People get emotional, people will start screaming, people will start yelling. And you know what? I'm not going to deem those people as bad people, because who wouldn't? If you're feeling a strong feeling against something or for something, I'm sure many of us, none of us are perfect, will most likely become emotional to a certain extent, whether that is anger or something else. And I realized that if anything, nothing would happen. And I always saw that, those people who were able to sit down, give their claim, let the other party talk, let them come to their own conclusion, and then let the case proceed, that those are the ones that always allowed for change to truly happen. Those are the people who made those strides to be calm and collected and to say what was on their mind, and they were the ones who made the change. And they were the ones who would end up convincing the other party to make this sort of change. And I realized that being able to sit down and collect your thoughts is something that has become so hard, and if anything so rare now, where everyone is constantly being fed this short-term content, for them to have their dopamine fried, for them to have all this serotonin rushing through their head, and for them to only look for and if anything fiend for the most positive emotions. That this is destroying our society, that we aren't able to listen to the other person because they merely think something different from us. And at that point I realized that at that point, how is humanity going to proceed if everyone is against each other, even though we don't even let the other person speak their mind? What are we doing? This could, if anything, lead to the downfall of humanity, or this could allow for improvements for our lives and make our lives easier, less people dying, and it could make life much more simpler if we were able to give the other person in front of us or across the room a chance to explain themselves. And this is the time to do it, where everything has become so sensationalized that now we need to give this other person a chance, because at the end of the day, what bad have they done if the only thing that they're doing is speaking their mind? We shouldn't allow these people to be shut down, and we need to become better people for this, for ourselves and the future generations to come. Thank you for watching.